welcome to another episode of Dragon Fireside Chats. I am Madam Creatrix, your emotional support witch, and I am joined here today with Erin Ryan. And for today's topic, we are going to be talking about what the fuck embodiment is. It is one of those words that you hear everywhere. It's usually paired with a bunch of other hot trigger words in the spiritual community. What is embodiment, and what does that truly mean for us, for you, for anyone listening? My camera's a little glitchy, so sorry folks if you're watching this. I was asking Erin, so my understanding of embodiment is how it looks and feels uniquely for you in your body, like the term, like the physicality of it, right? I don't know if that's the right word, but like, for example, I am a medium. We'll use this for an example, right? How it looks and feels in my body, meaning how does my body raise the energy? How does my body react to that energy? And how is my body channeling that energy? And how can I make sure that my body is sustained and healthy and supported throughout from start to finish? Like, and what does that look like with the self-care even after that? Like, so to me, embodiment has always been kind of presented to me in that sense. Am I wrong? Am I like, what, like,
I think that's what's so fun about it, right? Is like, who gets to say? Who gets to say
yeah,
what embodiment really is? Do you know what I mean? We can go look up the definition, of course, but like when it comes to the spiritual community, through my lens, embodiment is really about, have you taken information and brought it to the body, right? Have you actually used it? So to me, it's like knowledge that's not integrated, knowledge that's not applied, it's dead, right? But when you apply it, when you integrate it, when you use it in your day-to-day life, and then you form a relationship to it. And to me, embodiment is like, it no longer is a thing that exists outside of you. It has been completely absorbed into who you are. And so it's part of who you are now. It's like embodiment to me it's an identity-based thing. But I don't think I've ever had anybody come and say like, hey, Erin, this is how I define embodiment, which is why this is kind of a fun topic, because how often do people even talk about this? And I feel like there's a lot of room for how people interpret it and how they define it.
right. So I did just do a quick Google search because I was
Of
just like, you
course
know
you
what? I don't
did.
think I've ever actually just looked up the term. So according to the Google, embodiment means living through the physical experience of your body or giving a real physical form to an abstract idea. So that's essentially what we're talking about, right? The reason for us bringing up this topic was it's a word that we hear a lot of, but also if you're somebody that tends to collect certifications like they are Pokemon cards, what does the embodiment practice look like for that? Because I have personally come across other practitioners who will be like, oh, I just got my certification in X, Y, and Z. And now I am offering that as a paid offering to other people, or I am now teaching other people this new certification that I just got. Regardless of how they got the certification, whether it was an in-person training or they learned it virtually or they learned through like Udemy or one of those like online schooling things, right? There really isn't that time or that fully lived experience, that fully lived embodiment of the practices that you were taught. Like, it's going to take some time to understand how your body is going to build a relationship to whatever it is you're getting a certification in. I want to pause, and I also want to be like transparent. I've gotten certifications in a bunch of different stuff too. I have what's my list of certifications, right? Trauma informed, coaching and mindfulness, spiritual coaching. What else? I'm all of a sudden now going to
Reiki.
put Reiki. There we go.
That's certification, right?
Yeah. And like each one, it's learning the knowledge behind it, the wisdom behind it, which the two are different, but also how does it apply to you and what you're doing? I had to realize at some point, like, yeah, I can collect certifications like they're Pokemon cards, but like, what does that mean for me in my practice?
Yeah. How do you make it your own? What does that look like, right? As
Yeah,
opposed to just regurgitating what you went and learned and then just quickly slapping it over here. You're just moving it from here to over here. Has it actually gone through your system, your body, right? Have you actually used it? Like you were saying, the difference between
yeah.
knowledge and wisdom.
And too, so like Reiki, I don't know how I forgot that. Again, I put myself on the spot and all of a sudden I have no idea who I am.
I'm the same way. Like, don't ask me a direct question. I'm just going to go, like deer in the headlights.
Exactly. But for example, with Reiki, how I practice Reiki early on when I first started learning it is not at all how I practice it now, being a master teacher in these different modalities. Before, I did it exactly the way I was taught. I did the step by step and exactly what like what I was instructed to. But over time, I've built a relationship to this modality, to the different things that happen with my body as I'm utilizing this modality. So, past Madam Creatrix and current Madam Creatrix are two very different practitioners. And I bet you any amount of money that future Madam Creatrix is going to be different from current Madam Creatrix. But that's
Without
because
question.
I dedicated time, I devoted my time to understand what that can look like, what that can feel like, and allow it to evolve. Allow it to evolve and
Exactly.
allow it to take a life of its own and to take shape and seeing what that looks like. And that's kind of where my passion is when I work with other individuals, especially those who are starting out on their practice of I'm learning to be intuitive, or I'm learning to dive into my own intuition, or I'm having my own business and I want to be able to offer my skills and abilities to the public. So when I work with people, I go, that's amazing. I love that. I love that you felt the call, you felt the rise to meet that. But how are you making it yours? How are you making this yours and not somebody else's?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's the struggle.
Absolutely. And everything I'm about is like what wants to be born through you. What is your siren song? What is your medicine? What is only meant for you? And we can't access that if we're too concerned with acquiring, like I love that, acquiring knowledge like Pokemon cards or certifications like Pokemon cards. I freaking love that. And it's funny because I've seen it both ways. I've seen people who clearly are intimidated by actual true creation, whether it's creation of the business or creation of offers or, whatever that looks like for them. And so they lean really heavily on the certifications and the classes. And I mean, of course, we want to be knowledgeable and skilled at what we're doing. I've seen it the opposite where people are like, whoa, you do not have the skill set for this. You do not have the education for this. You might be gifted even in a certain respect, but you are missing pieces of this puzzle because this thing, not everything, but this particular thing needs formal education, right? So I've seen it both ways. I've also seen people who are doing a lot of this intuitive, mastery and bringing it into form, right? Before they even maybe know what they're doing because we are channels for the divine. And then they go and take the certification class and they're like, I've been doing this whole time. Like I didn't actually even need the class. I've got it. It's great. But this just reinforces that I did know what I was doing. And it's like, it's such a particular thing we all have to hold ourselves accountable for and ask these questions and slow down because you can get really excited. You can get super excited about something and be like, oh, I loved this class or I love what this person's doing. And now I'm going to go, I'm going to go do it now. And it's like, ooh, okay. Are we pausing? Are we actually asking the questions that are most important, which is like, is this embodied, right? Essentially.
I also see this a lot too when people decide that they want to embark on shamanistic journeys or priestess journeys where they want to be initiated into these practices, whether regardless of whichever pathway you choose, right? To fully understand the lineage of where some of these practices are coming, it's not going to be a quick online course. It is for some it is a lifelong dedication, or for some people it takes time. It takes whether it's months or years to devote your time to fully understand that. For example, when I first started working with Hecate, my practice and my initiation was a year and a day before I even started holding sacred space and including her in my practice because I had to understand what that looked like. I had to understand how that devotion evolved throughout the different seasons, throughout my own personal cycles and the cycles of the world around us. And it took shape, it took form, things ebbed, things flowed. There's times where it was very prevalent and very in my face, but then very pushed back. And I owed it to myself. I owed it to my practice and to understand what that can look like. And again, allowing it to evolve. Nobody told me I had to do that, but I just, from where I come from and where I know how these practices are, I know it takes time. Not everything is going to be the same. Not everything is going to be just like, boom, everything right there and there. Like, you have to understand that, and to understand that, you have to understand yourself. You have to understand your body. And even then, like, my understanding of my body then, completely different from my understanding of my body now, and allowing that practice to evolve.
Yeah, it's all about that relationship. And that's why, to me, ascension is actually descension. It's descension into the body deeper, especially into the lower chakra system. Like the people that I work with are very similar to me, where it's like, okay, we're up here in the third eye and we can float out in the etheric realm. We're really amazing at that. Even our throat chakras, even though a lot of us like struggle with voicing ourselves, we have that connection to our own inner voice enough, and our guides and all of that we can really like feel that. And then we go into the heart space, and there's usually a lot of pain, but we have open heart centers. It's the solar plexus that we tend to get really stuck. That's identity, that's power, right? And then into the womb space, there's so much trauma, especially intergenerational and collective trauma in a woman's womb space, and men too, in the hara. And then in the root, I mean, that's safety, survival. So we are carrying around terror in our bodies, and we're avoiding it by spending so much time up in the third eye, because, especially in the spiritual realm, like I remember when I first entered, I was like, what is everyone's obsession with like the third eye and the sixth chakra? Like, what is going on here? What about the rest of the body? And it was almost like there was this hierarchy of like, oh, because that's a quote unquote lower chakra. It's not lower because it's like lower hierarchical wise. It's physically lower in the human body, and the frequency is slower because the more dense something is, right, the more it becomes concrete, right? It's like if our cells weren't vibrating at the right rate right now, we wouldn't have human form. We wouldn't be solid enough to inhabit our body. So it's like, what is going on here, people? And I think this is where you and I are so aligned, because it's that, you used the word earlier, devotion. We are devoted to constantly meeting ourselves again and again and going through the death and rebirth process. And that includes every piece of information that comes into our bodies, whether it's channeled or it's from another human or a class certification, whatever it is. Like, we're like, okay, I'm going to assimilate this. And just like nutrition, that's how I look at it. Like, like we eat, like if you and I ate a banana, our bodies would absorb different things and it would release anything that's not serving. And I think it's the same way when it comes to embodiment. It's like, you can't just look at a banana and be like, okay, it's, like I have that now. It's like, no, you actually have to eat the banana, break it down, and use it for energy.
I think it's important too that knowing how it works with you and your body it should be kind of like a requirement before you go into and start initiating other people into these practices, into these modalities, into these certifications. Because I don't remember if we said it before when we were recording or if we said it before we started recording, but it very much can be the difference between I am just going to chew up and spit out exactly what I was taught to somebody else and just word for word regurgitating it, versus I'm going to take what what I learned, I'm going to assimilate it, I am going to embody it, and then I am now going to teach not only the lineage from where I come from, but also I am going to add to that lineage as I am holding space, as I am teaching, or as I am facilitating others around me. Because if you don't fully understand what that looks like for your body or how it works, what if somebody has questions about that? What if somebody also wants to know how it can look like for you? You haven't figured that out yet. What are you going to have to give to them? What are you going to have to also like give back to teach them in that moment, right? It's like we have to go through these things, just like all these lessons that we've learned. Like in our previous podcast, we talked about the toxicity and the shadow side of spirituality, and we barely scratched the surface, but we mentioned toxic mentors, right? We both had very toxic mentors. We also have mentors that we're like so freaking grateful that we had.
Yes.
And part of that too is it sucks that I had to go through and understand, like, experience what that toxicity could look like from a mentorship perspective. But because I experienced that, I knew how I didn't want to go forward. I knew how I did not want to continue perpetuating these cycles or these stereotypes. And part of that was through embodiment, through seeing how it worked through me and allowing that time. I think we get so scared that if we study this, then we feel so far behind, and then we gotta quickly run and go and like teach to build our businesses because, you know, it's money, it's scarcity, it's all this anxiety that bubbles up and all this urgency. But time, you have to trial and error. You have to see what that can look like. You have to allow yourself to kind of embody it. And then, too, your business will also add another layer of that embodiment. There are differences between Lauren the practitioner and Madam Creatrix the practitioner. Madam Creatrix, who is holding the space for many, versus Lauren, who is practicing from a more personal perspective. So, and that is why I love also when people come and guest facilitate circle, because I get to experience that shift, and so do the people that are coming to these communities. They see me as the facilitator, but then I love it because not only does it give me like a little bit of a break, but I also get to participate. For example, when you were there to facilitate our guest facilitator circle, like, yes, I was there into some capacity as Madam Creatrix because it was in the space, right? But I was like, I am not the position of authority here. That is all Erin. Have at it. You do you, girl. I still
Yep.
found myself regulating energy through it. Like, that's just who I am naturally at this point. It's that difference, that shift that happens. So, but again, time, lived experience, embodiment.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here because why not? Because I've
Yay.
also seen people do opposite. I've seen them be so fully embodied. Here's the hard part about embodiment. Sometimes you are fully embodied and it's so natural to you. It's like breathing that it's so difficult to understand. Like you have already arrived. I've had that happen to me. I've had it happen to my clients where they're like, I'm not ready. I need more time. Like they keep, right? They keep trying to, like, there's a missing link. And I'm like, no, actually, now you need to go out and do the thing. You are ready to go do the, this next step. And it's like, it's so tricksy, isn't it? Because it's like, which is it? And only each of us can know. And it's a very particular thing. And it's a case by case basis. And we have to, it's a feeling I get in my body, like a connection. I feel like I have a relationship. It's alive. That's, I describe a lot of my programs, like all of them are alive. They're living transmissions. They're ecosystems. So when I have medicine flowing through me, there is a very visceral lived experience that's happening. There's a communion that's taking place. And then the knowledge, right? I can see like, oh, there's gaps in knowledge. I have to go acquire that piece of it. Even if I don't fully understand what that is, I have this intuitive knowing, or also just common sense knowing of like, oh, like for instance, common sense. I wanted to become a licensed acupuncturist. Like, even if I didn't want to become licensed, which you have to be by law, but let's say you didn't, I needed to go and get a medical degree. I needed to go and learn. I got my master's degree studying it, right? I knew, let's say I had been studying the meridians on my own and all that stuff. That's not enough. Like, and then there's other times where it's like, oh, wow, when I started channeling, like I did Siren Song, for instance, this was a program that I did. And it was all about channeling and working with the sirens to activate your own siren song. And it was specifically for business and marketing. I remember I'm like, wait, I haven't actually spent a lot of time channeling sirens. Is this okay for me to be doing? They were right there. They're like, absolutely. You've been channeling. You've been developing this. We've been in the background. If you look here, here, and here, it's the same thing with Mary Magdalene. I'm doing Rose Oracle right now. I've been working with Mary Magdalene since 2020 in my own way. And now I'm bringing her forward in Rose Oracle, right? So it's like a very tricksy thing. I've seen people do it both ways. I've seen them rush and regurgitate. I've seen them keep themselves when they needed to leap. They needed to actually go and do the freaking thing.
So here's the thing too, you just said. So even though you it was your first time working with sirens, you had done channeling before. You had done the communing before with your body. Same thing with Mary Magdalene. Even though you might not be an expert on it, but you've also done the work to make sure that your body can withhold something like that. You've done, you can channel, you know what you have to do, what you don't have to do, what works for you. And you are phenomenal when it comes to being like, hey, I'm setting this container up, you're in, and then you're like, you know what, this week I'm feeling it in the container, I'm feeling it within myself. I'm going to take a step back this week. And knowing where you're like, this is where I'm feeling it into my body. This is what my body's telling me right now. So I'm going to do this versus I have to be here every single week and we have to do this all the time and it has to go, 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 go. That's part of that embodiment piece because you've been doing this.
Right. It's your connection at the end of the day. And it's like, it's really interesting because, like, for instance, with Mary Magdalene, I'm getting such clear information from her right now. She's like, do not overconsume about me. She's like, I need to give you that information directly. And so I know by now, because of embodiment, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like when it's like, oh, no, 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 Erin, you actually need to go and you need to get more information or training on something in particular. I know what that feels like in my body too. And I know you do as well. So part of that is the maturation that happens because we are devoted, because we spend time. We don't, you and I, we're not just doing this when we're doing a podcast or we're in our business. Like, we are in devotion in our lives. And I think that's why the transformation happens. And if there's one thing that I've seen too, is like this proximity that happens. Like when you get into a room, like when I'm talking with you, you are an embodied channel. I'm an embodied channel. It's like fireworks. It's electric. I feel the energy moving. It's like we create this positive feedback loop. And it's that way with other channels too. So it's like when you're embodied, there's something really magical that happens. And it's just like, you just know, right? So it's almost like being in love. It's like, if you've never been in love, everyone says that, like, you'll just know when you're in love. I feel like it's the same thing. And so many people are unfortunately not embodied. They're not, quote unquote, in love. They haven't experienced that yet. So they think that, oh, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? It's like, you know it. You know it in every fiber of your being, even if you're freaked out about going and doing that because you're in your edge. It's alive within you. It feels amazing when it happens too.
I've been in rooms with other channels where I'm like, you're a gifted channel, you're a gifted oracle, but there isn't that flow. There isn't that connection. There isn't that doesn't make that other person not good at what they do, but it's just kind of that, like, I can't put my
Yeah.
finger on it. I don't know what it is, but I can't safely have my channel open around this person. Like, or there's some people that go, hey, why don't we do a service exchange? And I love that. Like, I love, like, you use your gifts on me, I'll use my gifts on you. I love that. But there's some people that I'm like, you know what? Maybe at another time, but right now we'll do the energetic exchange the natural way, like we've been doing. So, but listening to my body. Once upon a time, I would have been like, oh yeah, even though all the red flags are just kind of like the saxophones are blaring.
And I love what you're saying too, because even if your body's a no, because I do the same thing with trades. Like, I will trade sometimes, right? But I ask my body, and if my body contracts, if my channel isn't open, if I don't feel that I know what it is, then it's a no. It's got to be a no. And it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with that other person. It's not a reflection of them whatsoever. It's just not a match, because I look at like what we have as medicine, and not everyone needs the same medicine. And I just have to like really quickly say this, because this has been on my mind too, which I love that we're having this conversation. And it kind of goes with the last episode we did with the spiritual toxicity, but I am just so sick of seeing people who are channels, and they might be totally gifted, they're spiritual, go and condemn another person and their program and their offering because they got a no in their body. Just because somebody gets a no, and it can be really visceral, like, whoa, like I feel like repulsion from this person and from their medicine. It can be really strong. That does not always mean that they are malignant or bad, or that they're, evil, or they're malicious in intent. They could have the most beautiful, potent medicine, but it's not your medicine. So your body says, fuck no, right? And that same person a year later, 6 months later, 10 years later might become oh my God, like this person's changing my life. My body's a full on fuck yes. So we need to stop being like, well, they gave me a weird vibe, or my body was a no, so they must be bad. It's so immature, and it's got such like mean girl vibes on it. And it's just this myopic way of looking at things. When I'm a no for somebody and their medicine, I do not automatically assume that there's something wrong with them. I honor them, and I honor my body too.
Well, that's what that taps into the witch wounding. You know, the witch wounding, the sister wounding, the fill in the blank wounding, right? Instantly, if we get an ick factor from somebody, we go, and then we want to tell other people about it. The only time that I ever feel called, and here's the thing, like, we all are humans. We all have human moments, okay? We all do the best with what we have at the time. Okay. And we all have moments in our life where maybe we overreacted, or maybe we had this mindset or this trauma response and we didn't know it was wrong or it was fill in the blank at the time, right? It's the practitioner that can look back on that and also take accountability for that, right? And
thank you. Yes, because you're right. We are all human.
And some of that I've had like connections or like bad parting of ways with other practitioners. And the only time I will ever say, hey, is if it's like, maybe think about this. I never want to stop somebody from being the best version of themselves. I never want to stop anybody from doing their thing. Like, you do you, bro. I love that. It may not fit me. That's wonderful. It doesn't have to. But you know what? I'm fucking excited for you. I want to be your cosmic cheerleader from afar. I'm not here to get into this catty bullshit. I'm not here to badmouth people. I'm not here to gossip about people. Like, if there's somebody that has red flags, I'm going to say, these are my personal red flags. I will not work with these practitioners due to either their moral standards. If it's to a point where I've seen where they can cause actual harm to the community that's there, but I will never, if it's because of the way they vibe, or the way they do their branding, or the way they dress, or the way they talk, or absolutely not.
Exactly. Ethics are so different. Yeah,
build a bigger bridge.
Ethical, I love that. Yeah, it's the moral piece. It's the ethical piece. It's like, if somebody is unethical, if they are causing harm, like you were saying, if their core values, right, are clearly doing harm, are harmful. Like, an easy one is like racism. If somebody's racist and I see that they're clearly racist, that in my mind is like, okay, now we've crossed into something else, right? But like you were saying, if it's, I don't like the way they look, I don't like the way they talk, I don't like the branding, I don't like the way they move their body, I don't like this, I don't like that. That's just me and my human, and I can just acknowledge that's me and my human, and I don't need to act on that. I don't need to say that. And I certainly don't need to like make it into some like, well, I just have this feeling about them and they're just this, that, and the other. And I have feelings about stuff, but I can tell the difference most of the time, I hope, at least at this point. I'm human too, right? I mess up, but it's what you said. It's like, okay, when we do mess up, we come back to it too. So it's like, it's not cut and dry. And I'm the same way. Like, I have been harmed by people. And if I know of somebody who is maybe thinking about going to that person, I'm really thoughtful. I know you are too, Lauren, about how I approach that subject. It's not like, okay, pull up a chair, and like, it might be pull up a chair, I'm gonna tell you some shit.
Yeah. Well, what's the hot goss? Like,
I'm not going to say that I don't gossip at all, because that's just not true either. But
we're healing, not healed. Healing, not healed. And as a Leo with a super Leo stellium in her chart, let me tell you, no one loves hot goss, hot tea like this bitch right here. But
I know. So we're just owning that, right? So we're not saying that we never do that shit either, because that's not true. But it always comes back. Like, even if, like, because you and I have done that a little bit before, right? But even when we come back, we always come back to a more centered place, you know, where it's like we have perspective, right? We can see nuance. We discuss nuance. And when we're talking, you know, maybe about somebody that we do feel is causing harm, like, it's a thoughtful conversation, even if, you know, we do have a little fun in the beginning.
you got to hold space for the human. Okay?
Totally.
You got to hold space for the human. Okay? Because that's how this works.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. We're all drama queens to an extent.
Hi, have you met me?
That's what I'm saying. Like, well, you like literally were in drama, so that works really well. But that's the thing, is holding all of ourselves, you know, and not being like, not veering into toxic positivity either, and be like, well, I just love everyone and I have no opinions about anyone. That's equally bullshit. That's bullshit too. Like, so this is like this sort of like devotional middle way that we find ourselves in, is like, can you hold all of it? Can you hold the human? Can you hold the divine? Can you hold the nuance? Like, can you hold yourself accountable? Can your ego handle being wrong? And then like taking accountability for it. That's a whole initiation.
That was last year's big thing, was looking back at all the relationships maybe that didn't go the way I had hoped, or friendships that ended for whatever reason, and taking a good look at because that's the shadow work piece. That's the literal holding up of the mirror and having to face yourself and going, okay, here are these things that that rub me the wrong way. Why are they rubbing me the wrong way? Is it because this person is doing something that I desperately wish that I could be doing? So this is maybe envy or jealousy talking? Or is this because they're doing something that truly doesn't sit right with me? So having to hold that mirror up to myself constantly and check myself constantly, like, it's gotten better throughout the years, and having to own up that, you know, maybe in the past with those mentors, like looking back and going, no, I did not deserve anything that they gave me, but where was somewhere where maybe something was miscommunicated, or where did something go wrong that maybe I said or I didn't do? Because again, that's the accountability piece.
Right.
Like,
where do we participate? What's mine, what's theirs? Recognizing that, especially in relational dynamics, it's not just one person. Like, it's always not, I'm going to say always, but most of the time, right?
This is not to victim blame. This is looking at the average relationship that you have, and when you're looking at the patterns or you're looking at the cycles, taking a good look and going, okay, what's the common denominator in all of these cycles, these patterns? Well, it's me. I'm the problem, it's me. I'm the witch, it's me. But seeing where is that? Because that's the whole point of this. We're here to break chains. We're here to break cycles. We're here to break patterns. Okay, whether it's within our families, whether it's within our friendship groups, or whether it's within society or these communities that we find ourselves a part of. You know, nobody's perfect. Nothing is perfect. A lot of these systems are broken. So not only how can I help change them, but also how can I unlearn, deprogram myself so I can live by example? And part of that comes right back into the embodiment of these things that we are learning, these practices that we are partaking in, and how we are interacting with those in the community mindfully, with intention, and not just doing it to do it. So time.
Right. But doing it to do it, doing it to extract from people, right? Being honest with ourselves about what it is why are we there? Why are we present? And really staying connected to our heart and our devotion, and bringing compassion and curiosity as much as we humanly can to ourselves and to other people.
So I love this. This feels complete. A little bit of a shorter episode for you this week. Please check back in. We are going to try to post new episodes on Wednesdays. Also, if you've reached out to one of us and have an interest in being a guest spot on the podcast to talk about your gifts, your passions, fill in the blank, our form is now live. So either message us for the link, or you can find it in our info or in our bios or in the comment section of our posts. We're going to be looking at our calendars and seeing what's on the horizon and who can we fit in for these Dragon Fireside Chats.
Amazing.
All right, everybody. Well, until next time.
So long. Bye-bye.